All right, ladies and gentlemen, the NFL trade deadline is in the books. We're going to be talking through the NFL trade deadline first, and then we'll be recapping the week 9 NFL games. Apologies for those who subscribe to beatbestball.com. Last week was my bye week. Of course, I'm a best ball site. There's no bye weeks for the best ball, but I also offer some write-ups for the BRs, but I was at a chess championship this past weekend, so didn't have the time with Halloween and everything, but we'll be back there this upcoming week. Anyways, let's talk about the trade deadline. And I mean, I think it was mostly a nothing burger for fantasy, of course. This is the tweet from Adam Schefter. He's recapping all the trades. Okay, Trevor Penning, who's he? He's a tackle. They're kicking the treads on him because, unfortunately, the Chargers lost Joe Alt for the season. That's killer for them. The Chargers, one of the best teams in the AFC, crushing. Okay, the Colts and Sauce Gardner. Let's start it off. All right, so I think this is a fantastic trade for the Jets. The Jets previously were one of the teams with the least hope in the NFL. And what I mean by that is they don't have a quarterback and they don't have a good team. And when that's the case, you have no hope. Okay. Do they have hope now? They have a ton of hope right now. You know, they have so much hope right now. They have a bunch of first round picks. They have a bad record. They're going to have a high first round pick. So there's the hope. Boom. Get your quarterback. You get a quarterback, things change. New England was like this at one point, right? New England was a hopeless organization. They drafted Drake May. Things changed quick in the NFL. For the Colts, this is obviously an overpay, giving 2 first-round picks for a corner. However, I get it. And I'm not going to hate on the Colts for it, because if you're the Colts, here's what you are thinking. Number one, the AFC is pretty wide open, right? Like, who's the best team in the AFC? It's probably Buffalo. Then you got teams like the Bengals, who don't have Joe Burrow. You have a team like the Ravens, who might not even make the playoffs. You have a team like the Chiefs, who are still a good football team, but are currently not a playoff team and like look very beatable. You got, and other than that, like, if you can just avoid the Bills or hope someone else beats the Bills, you know, maybe the Colts could make the Super Bowl. So I think it's an overpay. You gave 2 first-round picks for a corner. That's what Micah Parsons cost, right? But I get it for the Colts. They're going kind of mini all in. They're not going to have a good draft pick next year. He's still a good player. He's still an elite corner. And you hope to catch lightning in a bottle. You are probably not going to have a better chance than this year if you are the Colts, period, right? Like, you might say, oh, Daniel Jones, he's going to be a cheap contract. Why not next year? Next year's never guaranteed, you know? Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, boom, there goes the Colts' hope. You lose a couple of linemen, boom, there goes the Colts' hope. The Bengals are healthy, you know? The Chargers are healthy. They're better than you. Because I still think the Colts, we're going to get there, but I still think the Colts are more pretenders. The Broncos are like huge pretenders. The Colts are better than that. But yeah, like, I get it from the Colts end. Okay. They got a good team. They're a little bit desperate. They're not. Why did we not see teams like the Bills, teams like the Chiefs make moves at the trade deadline? Because they don't have to. They're good football teams that hit on mid-round picks all the time, and they're not panicking. Whereas at the Colts, it's like, well, you got to make some moves. Why did the Ravens make so many trades? They need to make a bunch of moves, you know? Okay. I made the joke on Twitter. I said it's reported that the Jets only asked for 2 first-round picks, but the Colts insisted that they take A.D. Mitchell as well. But okay, A.D. Mitchell probably immediately becomes the wide receiver 2 for them. It's a little weird that they didn't trade away Allen Lazard. I guess maybe Rodgers is over with him. Another big, huge trade. Now, this is an example of probably a bad franchise, right? The Cowboys. The Cowboys are desperate. They're making trades, and they're not a playoff team, and they probably won't make the playoffs. You know, man, my chat. If you're not part of the chat, my chat is really going off right now on my haircut. I did get a haircut. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Anyways, Quinnen Williams, great player. Dallas previously had all these picks from the Micah Parsons trade, but okay, so they get a good player. Is it going to, big time change the Cowboys? Probably not, but wasn't as expensive as Sauce. And I think it nets out to where basically the Cowboys got like him and I'm forgetting the D lineman on the Packers plus a first round pick. Okay, Maisie Smith. That's nothing. Rashid Shaheed. Okay, Rashid Shaheed was had for a 4th and 5th round pick. Great trade from Seattle. Seattle is like Indy, where Seattle probably views this as like their best opportunity, right? They are a team that kind of do want to push more all in for what's basically a 9-game rental for Rashid Shaheed, right? Because Rashid Shaheed's a free agent. There's no guaranteed Rashid Shaheed is going to re-sign with Seattle. He can sign with whoever he wants. So in that sense, it's a rental. Now, Rashid Shaheed's a good player, okay? And it's a little confusing because Torrey Horton was looking good, but, Cooper Kupp, he's hurt. He might be nothing. Formerly played with the offensive coordinator of Seattle, where Rashid Shaheed was awesome. Sam Darnold is awesome at throwing the deep ball. So love the fit. Bills fans are like, I would have beat that with a 3rd round pick. It's like, yeah, I get it. But again, it's a rental. And it makes more sense for the Seahawks, who, why couldn't they reach the Super Bowl for the NFC, right? The NFC is even more wide open. Okay, Jakobi Meyers to Jacksonville. This is another kind of fantasy notable one where my first initial reaction to this was it's probably not great news for Travis Hunter. However, taking a step back to knee-jerk reactions, Rappaport did tweet that Travis Hunter is very likely to return. They're eyeing week 13, so that's good news. And the bigger thing is Brian Thomas Jr. has a high ankle sprain. And Jacksonville is currently a playoff team ahead of the Chiefs. So if you're Jacksonville, you cannot go into the week with high ankle sprain Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington, and I think even Dyami Brown is like concussed. Like, you need some bodies out there. So good trade from Jacksonville. They get a player who I think people think of Jakobi as only slot only, which is confusing because Parker Washington's coming off a good game, but he can definitely play outside as well. And just makes Trevor Lawrence, he's not the best guy in the world, but it's he needs talent to elevate him. And yeah, I like the trade from both sides, right? From the Raiders' point of view, like you need to get rid of these guys and let your 2nd round pick Jack Beck see the field. What are we doing playing Tyler Lockett over them? And honestly, my opinion is that the Raiders were probably saved by losing that game. Like, if they won that game, Pete Carroll almost certainly is like, no, we're not trading. We're going to make the playoffs. What do you mean? So I think it's best news for Brock Bowers, who is going to compete for the ball even less now. It's obviously great news for Trey Tucker, and hopefully Jack Beck, Torrey Horton, someone can see the field here. They're going to play Tyler Lockett at times too. Okay, Philly continues to buy low on talented players. Good trade for them. That's the other thing is like Chris Olave. Obviously I'm a Bills fan, so I see a lot of tweets like this. They're like, I can't believe the Bills didn't get Chris Olave. Blah, blah. It's like Chris Olave is one hit away from being concussed. Great player, but you can't really trade a 1st round pick for a guy like that. The Bears got some edge rusher help. Okay, the Ravens, they bought a D lineman from the Titans. Again, from the Ravens' point of view, they need to fix their defense. They need to make the playoffs. They have a lot more desperation than some of these teams. Dallas, again, they're like the Ravens. They're desperate. They're currently not a playoff team. They don't have a good record. Their defense is terrible. We'll see if it works. It probably won't, but we'll see. Alexander to the Eagles. I kind of like that buy low. He just doesn't seem healthy, though. Michael Carter. Man, the Eagles are like the best at this, just like buying low on talented players. John Mechie. Okay. I honestly, I didn't even see that one, but good for him. Keon White. The Niners like are decimated on the defense. They lost their first round pick. Kyle Duggar to Pitt. He wasn't playing for New England. Roger McCleary. Yeah, whatever. Some of these trades are whatever. Joe Flacco. This wasn't today. I think Schefter also got just a surmise of the trades today. Okay, Breece Hall not getting traded away. In some senses, it doesn't make sense from the Jets to trade away most of your team, but not trade away Breece. But at the same time, they wanted a third-round pick. It's being reported the Chiefs were only willing to give a fourth. From the Jets' point of view, either they're going to re-sign him and try to make life easier on their next quarterback, or they're going to get a comp pick from him. And also, they need guys to like help fill the stands. So maybe the owner drew the line at a third-round pick for Breece, where he's like, you know what? No, we just got a first-round pick here, first-round pick there, first-round pick here. We don't need the third-round pick. Build the team. And honestly, from the Jets, I think it's kind of good news for Aaron Glenn not being a one and done. Because if we remember, Dan Campbell kind of built that team from the ground up. So maybe Aaron Glenn's going to be given the chance to build the team up. They tried it with the old roster. It didn't work. Like it didn't work for anyone else. Build up the team now. Let me know what you guys think about the trade deadline. I think pretty easily Waddle with how things are looking there. It's being reported the Dolphins wanted a first for Waddle. I think that's actually reasonable. And I think it's just a reminder, folks, that like the trade deadline almost always is a flop. Okay. And the good teams, they don't need to trade, right? These third round picks, you can really hit on some talent in the third round. And it's cost controlled, Ross, I think it's going to be. Let's just look at the playoff standings before we jump into this recap. Look at it for the AFC and NFC. All right, for the Bills right now, or for the AFC, the Bills were highlighted, so I said Bills. These are your playoff teams, the top 7 seeds. Do you guys remember when it used to be the top 6? I don't think they messed up, man. I think what you're hearing a lot is a lot of people drafted a lot of Breece, and they're upset that they didn't get bailed out by him getting traded. So the Colts, Pats, Broncos are all 7-2. Steelers are 5-3. Bills are 6-2. How is this behind? Oh, it's not division. Chargers are 6-3. Jags are 5-3 and have the head-to-head against the Chiefs. Chiefs are 5-4. And then you got the Ravens kicking around at 3-5. I guess you got the Texans kicking around at 3-5. And I don't, the Bengals would have been kicking around, but yeah, they're not. So really, no one other than Ravens plus can make the playoffs. I think people are assuming that the Chiefs make the playoffs over the Jags. I think people are also assuming the Ravens will make the playoffs over, I guess, the Steelers. But, like, it's getting harder. It's getting harder. And, I mean, even it would be kind of crazy, but, like, I guess it's possible. My guess is that the Bills will get the 1 seed. The Pats will probably end up playing like the Chiefs in the wild card round, which, like, if you're New England, I think is a good game no matter what, because I think New England is still a year away, right? Like, majorly improved team. They can beat anyone, but their roster is just not as talented. The Broncos, Give me a break, man, with the Broncos. Like, I just don't think Bo Nix is it. You just struggled to beat CJ or Davis Mills, you know? Looking at the NFC, which is a little bit more wide open. Eagles, Bucks, Seahawks, all 6-2, as are the Rams. Packers are 5-2-1, which is basically 6-2. Niners are 6-3. Lions are 5-3, and then the Bears are 5-3. The Panthers are 5-4. The Panthers. The Vikings are 4-4, and the Cowboys are 3-5-1. And I guess you could say the Cardinals and Falcons are 3-5 as well. So if you're the Cowboys, it's like the NFC. There's a lot more like middling teams, I guess I would say, who could make the playoffs, but it's not easy, right? Like right now, these are your non-conference winners: Rams, Niners, Lions. That's not an easy group to be better than. The thing that the Cowboys have going for them, the thing that like the Panthers have going for them even, is it's kind of hard for three teams from the same division to make the playoffs. Seahawks, Rams, 49ers. It's also hard for three teams to make the playoffs from Packers, Lions, Bears, Vikings. You know? So Bears 5-3, yep. So I don't know. Like, most likely we're going to judge these trades as like terrible waste of capital. Even though, like, I think they got some talented players, like Quinnen Williams can certainly play ball. But possibly, like, if you remember the Rams not too long ago, they were trading away a bunch of picks for players, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So that was really a devastating loss for the Cowboys yesterday, but there's plenty of time left in the NFL, right? They have till week 18. It's only week 10. Okay? So week 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 9 weeks. Gaps can be closed quick. For us in fantasy land, we'll call it week 14, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 5 weeks, folks. 5 weeks. All right. And then Rashid Shaheed, just talking about the two fantasy relevant ones, which is Rashid Shaheed and Jakobi Meyers. I mean, Jakobi Meyers has been a terrible pick in best ball land. Maybe he gives you some weeks with the injuries, but I still don't think it's that exciting, especially if Travis Hunter returns, right? And then for Rashid Shaheed, he might not get as much target volume, but I think he's going to have a lot more big games. And maybe even Chris Olave just gets spammed with more targets, you know? So I get it. And I think it's exciting for Rashid Shaheed, who was a player I was pretty into. Okay. Let's get into recapping the week 9 games. Again, I was playing a chess championship this past weekend. So the 1 p.m. games, I'm not going to be perfect on because I was finishing my last round. 4 p.m. plus, though, I did watch it all. Okay, kicking it back to Thursday Night Football. Ravens win 28-6, possibly spurring the Dolphins to be sellers of Jalen Phillips. Big story here is Lamar returns 204 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also, Derrick Henry, 19 carries, 120 yards, no touchdowns. Keaton Mitchell gets in there, 4 carries. No one really great in the passing game, despite a bunch of touchdowns. Mark Andrews, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches, though, 22 yards. So it's like, this is kind of what Mark Andrews was last year. Oh my God, man. The Vele. I guess we got to talk about that real quick for the Saints, where it's just like, talk about worst trade of all. Like, maybe even worse than the Herschel Walker trade. Trading for Vele before the season, who is older than Rashid Shaheed, to then trade away Shaheed is like truly puzzling. I still think Isaiah Davis is keepable unless there's someone more appealing on the waiver. Like in deeper leagues, I'm holding on to him. And they're like so many of these guys on bad teams. So Brees, etc., going into contract years, yeah, you could get the injury stuff. So Zay Flowers, 5 for 64, no touchdowns though. Isaiah Likely, 3 for 60, better than best ball. Rashad Bateman, 213-1. Rashad Bateman ended the year so well last year and has been absolutely nothing. I'm going to give him a couple more weeks with Lamar. But yeah, it's been bad. Also, the story out of this one is Ravens defense. They've traded for some guys, and they might just be better now. They might just be significantly better. Tua and the Dolphins, 261 yards, no touchdowns. Tua played like actually okay to start this game, and then they got kind of screwed. Achane, 67 yards on the ground, 49 yards, and 6 catches in the air. So, Achane doing his thing. Waddle, 6 for 82 in the air. Again, like a 60-yard catch or something was wiped off by a ticky-tack penalty. And then Greg Dulcich, 5 for 49. So, hey, Greg Dulcich, we've drafted him before. Digging into the usage, this is courtesy of PFF and Nate Yonke. It's Zay Flowers and Bateman as running routes. Hopkins is a 0. Tylan Wallace is a 0. Like all these other guys are 0s. They're running no routes. Likely and Andrews. Likely ran a little bit less than Andrews. The wide receivers ran about 10 more routes more than both the tight ends, though. So, like, almost no one is startable and managed on the Ravens other than Zay, Lamar, and Derrick Henry. And, only Derrick Henry and, like, positive game scripts, pretty much. For the Dolphins, okay, the wide receiver split's been pretty steady here. Taj Washington, rookie, got his first catch, turned into a fumble. Greg Dulcich and Tanner Connor, they both ran snaps here. Dulcich didn't run that many more routes than this Tanner Connor guy, but did get 5 targets. So some appeal as like a tight end premium type guy if you're desperate. And then, yeah, Ollie Gordon barely playing. Nick Westbrook-Akine, blocking wide out. Malik Washington, he's, I don't know. It's bad for the Dolphins, folks. I think it goes up. Like he's on my eliminator team for Shaheed. And the Jets play the Patriots week 17. So not the Colts. But he's on my eliminator team. So I'm really stoked that he doesn't have to deal with his week 11 bye. But this week might be a mini bye. How much does he play this week? I don't know. But yeah, I think the value goes up as far as, especially in best ball, the value goes way up. Right? Maybe in managed PPR it goes down, but doubtful. Almost certainly it just goes up. Okay, moving on to the 1 p.m. games. Okay, the Bears and Bengals play an absolute crazy game. I caught midway through this to the end. Bears prevail 47-42. Caleb Williams, 280-3. DJ Moore threw a touchdown. Kyle Monangai. This is not a guy I actually drafted that much. It was kind of like analysis, or maybe at all. Maybe like I think I got like a little bit on DK, but it was kind of like analysis paralysis where it's like, okay, is Roschon a 0? I didn't think so. Clearly he is. Is a 7th round rookie really gonna just play? Guess yes, right? Anyways, 26 carries for him, 180 yards on the ground. Caleb Williams, 5 for 53 on the ground. Some randos caught. And then the real story here, where were all those haters trolling me? Oh, Colston Loveland, you didn't draft Tyler Warren. Colston Loveland's so bad. Colston Loveland, 6, 118, and 2. So sorry that we didn't want to bury a 21-year-old's career who, again, if you want to add some context here, Colston Loveland had a shoulder injury in training camp, like after during the draft and whatnot. Okay, so one reason he'd start slow is that. Number 2, he hurt his hip week 3. Oh, the points don't count when against the Bengals. I guess they don't count. Anyways, 6-1, 18-2. Obviously, the second touchdown he scored, if you saw it, he bounced off a bunch of defenders. But the first touchdown, he was literally ran a grown man route. And it's perfectly reasonable that Loveland might just be the number 1 target on the Bears going forward, right? So, of course, the Bengals have been eviscerated by tight ends. But a big thing that I liked about Loveland when I watched a little bit at him is he wins downfield. There are so few tight ends, Tyler Warren included, he doesn't do this, meaning, who win downfield, right? And when you do that, you can have huge games, right? So very excited for Colston Loveland. Excited to see if he can build off of this. The other players, DJ Moore, 4 for 72. Olamide Zaccheaus, 658 and 1. Caleb Williams, 222 and 1. He caught a touchdown from Moore. Or maybe Kmet, I don't know. Cole Kmet, I think, got concussed in this one. Notable. And Luther Burden was out for this one for concussion. And then Rome Odunze got blanked, which is probably being overrated a little bit because the Bengals defense is terrible, but they do have one great corner who probably erased him. And yeah, I mean, it's just a reminder for Best Ball 2 folks. Because if you listen to my channel, you know I said so many times on this channel, Tucker Kraft could be the number 1 quote-unquote wide receiver on the Packers. I like Tucker Kraft. And I did draft quite a bit of Kraft. I have him on some high-stakes teams. I have him here and there. But I was kicking myself because I'm not someone who, fine-tunes my exposures. I got to make sure I get 16% Kraft and 15% Loveland. I was just I have a lot more Loveland than Kraft than I remembered because I just kept on YOLOing him at the end of draft season. And now it's unfortunately, Kraft tore his ACL. That happens, right? Also, we might look back and Loveland might be the preferred player to Warren, which is kind of crazy because Tyler Warren has obviously been a good football player, but he doesn't break tackles and, he's had no huge blow-up games. Okay, Joe Flacco, nearly 500 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, this game was insane. Chase Brown, 37 yards on the ground. T. Higgins, 7, 121 and 2. Jamar Chase, 6 and 111. Chase Brown, 8 for 75. Andre Yoshivas even getting on this, who is a guy I liked because of Joe Burrow goes Burr. 566 and 1. Noah Fant caught a touchdown, 2 for 28. So, my God. The Bengals are just the points factory. Okay, usage-wise, what did we see? It was Rome, Moore, and Zaccheaus running the routes. The real question is next week when Luther Burden is not concussed, you would hope, what's it look like? Rome does only get 2 targets in this one. Loveland runs 34 routes, drew 7 targets. So great to see that. Also played a ton of snaps. Again, I think Kmet got concussed in this one, but yeah, you would think that you don't put Loveland back into the bottle as long as he stays healthy. And then Kyle Monangai was a workhorse, 26 of 32 carries. Britton Brown and Travis Homer barely played. I don't think Kyle Monangai is going to send DeAndre Swift to 0, though, because he has been playing good ball too. And when he's healthy, he should be playing. For the Bengals, one of the most boring teams to look at. It's Chase Yoshi Vosh Higgins. We know it's Chase Brown. What is notable here is Samaje Perine did not play at all, which is not the case. The week before, he played a lot. So this was just Chase Brown workhorse game. 65 of 68 snaps, which we've seen before. So maybe the Bengals were just really trying to win this game and see if they could make the playoffs. But yeah, no, that's kind of crazy. And Chase Brown's the fantasy revival for all these guys is crazy. We'll see how motivated they are to do. Like you see Chase and he's like pissed off that they're losing, but we'll see if they can keep it up. And what a fun run for Flacco, keeping the fantasy pieces afloat. Okay, yeah, looks like concussion. And I guess P Ryan got hurt. Okay, so that makes sense. Again, I was playing a chess tournament. I get to see all this. Vikings and Lions. The Vikings shock the Lions 27-24. Starting with the Vikings. Good win for JJ McCarthy, who would have been called a pumpkin if the score was reversed. JJ McCarthy, not a great passing day, 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. So still not sure what kind of fantasy offense McCarthy can keep afloat. Of note, though, the Lions defense is pretty good. Aaron Jones, 9 for 78. I believe he had like an AC joint injury, but I think he's going to be fine. And yeah, Aaron Jones is a guy I drafted a ton. Was bummed he got injured, but he's been dusting Jordan Mason since returning. Jordan Mason, a very inefficient 10 for 36. McCarthy ran in a touchdown. Passing game stunk. 6 for 47 and 1 for Jefferson. 2 for 48 for Addison. I think we need a bigger sample here, but I'm still a little worried about these Vikings passing game pieces. Jared Goff, 284 and 2. David Montgomery, 11 carries, 40 yards, a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, only 9 carries for 25. So I don't know. If I was losing to a division rival, I'd probably play Gibbs a lot more than this. A terrible day for Gibbs. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9 for 97. I know he got banged up in this one. I did not see what came of that. I think he's okay, though, because I've not heard anything. Sam Laporta, 6 for 97 and 1. Jameson Williams popped up for an okay day, 466 and 1. And yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 catches, 3 yards. So usage-wise, for the Vikings, it's Jefferson and Addison. We know that. Jalen Naylor as the 3. We also knew that. Hawkinson, barely getting... I mean, when McCarthy has 150 passing yards, what are you expecting, right? And then the Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones split. Mason outsnapped Jones, even on the carries, more routes for Jones, more targets for Jones by 1. And my guess is that Mason outsnapped Jones because the Vikings were up pretty decent in this one, and they were probably trying to just salt the game away. And again, Aaron Jones is returning and did get banged up. For the Lions, your guess is as good as mine. Why they gave 2 third-round picks for Isaac Tesla. He's barely playing. Cleve Raymond is your wide receiver 3 at the moment. Brock Wright, also kind of the wide receiver 3, 12 personnel. And then Gibbs outsnaps Montgomery, but yeah, Montgomery gets more targets. Montgomery gets more carries in a game you're losing. What's going on? Yeah, anyone see the Laporta? Oh, brief exits. They missed a few plays. Okay, so they were fine. Panthers upset the Packers 16-13. Huge win for the Panthers. In the box score, Bryce Young, 102 yards, 1 interception. Just because you've asked this a lot, I don't know. 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the playoffs. The real playoffs, not the fantasy playoffs. Bryce Young. Yeah, 102 yards, 1 interception. So even in games the Panthers win, he barely gets there. He's not that great. Rico Dowdle, though, 25 carries, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. So many people called this guy just a guy. He was one of my highest drafted players in the big board. I still drafted a lot in Best Ball Mania, have him in high stakes spots too, but didn't draft as much in Best Ball Mania. But just good to see Rico ball, man. Incredible, honestly. And if the Panthers are going to sneak into the playoffs, it's going to be off the back of Rico Dowdle. Chuba Hubbard, 5 carries, 17 yards. I still think Chuba might play more. Remember, he was injured, so like maybe they let him get a little healthier, and then it's a little bit more even later, but clearly it should be the Rico show. Tet McMillan, 4 for 46. Yeah, again, I mean, Bryce Young had 102 passing yards. Like, everyone stunk. Packers, Tucker Kraft towards ACL. We talked about a little bit earlier, but just a killer injury. Stinks, you know. Kraft, probably the best tight end. Might have usurped Kittle. But yeah, stinks, man. 273 yards, 1 interception for Love. Josh Jacobs, 17, 87, and 1. Emmanuel Wilson, 6 for 16. Romeo Dobbs leads the way, 7 for 91. Christian Watson, 2 for 58. Luke Musgrave, who I would kick the tires on in tight end premium. Luke Musgrave has been good in the past, and now Tucker Kraft's out for the season. Very close there. JSN, probably a little bit better than Rice, just barely. Judkins, probably a bit better than Rico. So, box score or usage-wise, it's Tet, Coker, and Leggett running the routes. 6 targets for Tet, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Are they ever going to... And they play the Seahawks week 17. Like, Tet is a major bust of a fantasy pick. Anyone who disagrees with that is delusional. Tommy Tremble and Jatavian Sanders split in the work at tight end here, which is bad news for both. And then the Rico Chuba split, 42 snaps to 13, 12 routes to 4, 3 targets to 1, 25 carries to 5. So all in Rico's favor there. Just a monster workload for Rico. What would it be in a trailing game script? I don't know. I mean, we saw against the Bills, they just benched Rico, maybe saving him. But yeah. And, you know, there was a little smoke that Chuba could get traded to, like, the Pats. They did draft Trevor Etienne, but didn't go for it. Okay, for the Packers, it's Dobbs and Watson leading the way. Matthew Golden, I think, suffered a shoulder injury. I believe it's minor, though. So Malik Heath and Savion Williams were getting a lot of routes in this one, and Dontavian Wicks was out. Luke Musgrave and John Fitzpatrick are your other tight ends. Musgrave is going to, of course, be the one running routes. I think Fitzpatrick is a blocking tight end. So again, I'll be picking up Musgrave in some places just to see. Because there was a time where we were excited about him in fantasy, and I still think he has that. It's just he wasn't as good as Kraft. He doesn't offer probably the yard after catch that Kraft did, but he does have downfield ability. And then Josh Jacobs, Dust Emmanuel Wilson. Chris Brooks is getting in there too. Yeah, I don't know. The Packers are kind of weird. They're a good team, though, still. Okay. The Broncos, who are 7-2, and again, I don't think they're... I don't like... When I say the Broncos are not a great football team, are they better than, you know, the Jets? Of course. Are they going to beat the good teams in the playoffs? No, they're not, to me. So they're 7-2, but they were down big in this one going into the fourth. They came back and won. And of course, CJ Stroud got concussed very early in the game. We'll start with the Texans. Davis Mills had 137 passing yards, 30 attempts. CJ Stroud only got through 10 attempts in this one, 79 yards. So, of course, the Texans' defense is good, but still, you can't be losing games to Davis Mills. Nick Chubb and Woody Marks did absolutely nothing in this one. Dalton Schultz, 6 for 77. Nico Collins, 7 for 75. Christian Kirk, 4 for 26. And Jalen Noel went to 0 with Christian Kirk back, which is notable. For the Broncos, 173 yards, an interception, and 2 touchdowns for Bo Nix. J.K. Dobbins, 15 for 61. Bo Nix got some rushing yards late, 3 for 36. R.J. Harvey, only 2 carries for 5 yards. R.J. Harvey, though, 5 catches, 51 yards, a touchdown. He's a terrible managed pick, but he's, like, fine in best ball. Cortland Sutton comes back down to earth, 130 and 1. 1 catch, 30 yards, 1 touchdown. No one else really had a great day fantasy-wise. Usage-wise here, It's Sutton, Franklin, and Pat Bryant running the routes. So it is nice that Pat Bryant, the rookie, is out there. Troy Franklin leads the way with 9 targets. And Evan Ingram and Adam Troutman. I believe the rumor here is that the Broncos were trying to trade for Luke Musgrave, but then Tucker Kraft tore his ACL. So there goes that. J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, pretty equal on snaps, actually, 29-20. Of course, Tyler Beatty's getting in there. 17 routes for Harvey, almost no for Dobbins. Only 4 routes for Dobbins. 15 carries for Dobbins, almost no for Harvey, though. So Harvey's the pass catcher. Dobbins is the runner, is how they're doing it. Harvey might be in the Joker role. Okay, for the Texans, Nico Collins, Hutchinson, Kirk, and Higgins. These are your route leaders. Jalen Noel, only 6 routes. Hutchinson outsnaps Kirk, but gets out-routed by him. Kirk coming back to 7 targets. Again, you need CJ Stroud out there to have any optimism about Kirk, who's been hurt most of the year. Dalton Schultz, the only tight end to speak of here. And Woody Marks and Nick Chubb, pretty even here. 10 to 11 carries, 3 targets to 0, 17 routes to 11. Woody's come back down a little bit to earth. But again, it's Davis Mills. How can you judge anything? Falcons nearly defeat the Patriots. 24-23 for New England. Basically, this was like Drake London being a grown man. One of my highest drafted big board players. I cooled off a little bit in Best Ball Mania. Drake London, man, just so many strong hands. And then their kicker misses the extra point. Killer. But Michael Penix, 221 and 3. Bijan Robinson, 12 for 46. So New England continues to limit running backs. We'll see what they do against James Cook in round 2. Drake London, 9 for 118 and 3 touchdowns. So like a 40-point fantasy day for him in PPR land. Bijan Robinson, 8 for 50. Kyle Pitts, 4 for 38. And Darnell Mooney, man, 1 for 15. My God. Darnell Mooney having such a good year last year to such a terrible year this year is like, what happened? Drake May continues to be a very consistent fantasy quarterback. 259 and 2. Travion Henderson with no Ramondre Stevenson, 14 for 55. So good to see him used. Terrell Jennings, 1135 and 1. Drake May, 8 for 20. Pop Douglas, 101. So he's coming a little bit alive here. Back-to-back decent weeks. Hunter Henry, 4 for 51. Stephon Diggs, 3 for 38 and 1. And Travion Henderson, 4 for 32 in the air. So we'll see how long Ramondre's injury is for, but encouraging that Henderson is being used. Okay. Snap count. Darnell Mooney actually leads the way in routes, but gets 1 target. It's just like perplexing when you see this Drake London stuff. 38 routes, 14 targets. It's like, don't you just like double cover him at some point, triple cover him, and be like, beat us with Davis Sills or Darnell Mooney? The Bills lost to the Falcons, and it was the same thing. It's like, my God, make them throw it to anyone else. Kyle Pitts, 36 and 7 routes to targets. And then Tyler Algier continues to play less here. I think Bijan plays a ton in trailing game scripts, of course. 29 routes, 9 targets, 12 carries. Another ho-hum day, though, in the box score for him. For New England, Kayshon Boutte, I think it's a hamstring injury. Don't quote me on that, though. He has a Discord, and in his Discord, he says, it's going to be okay, fam. I'll be back in a couple of weeks, something like that. Anyways, signs of life for Kyle Williams, who was not playing before, but did run 20 routes in this one. Stephon Diggs ran 29 routes, 4 targets. And Mac Hollins, who, if you remember, was with Josh McDaniels on the Raiders. So 20 routes for him, 2 targets. Of course, he's a blocking wideout too. And then only 13 routes for Demario Douglas and 6 targets for him. Does he get to play more with the good weeks? We'll see. Henry and Hooper continue to play a lot. And then the interesting split here is Henderson. So 51 snaps for Henderson of 68, 28 routes of 40, 5 targets compared to 1 for this Jennings guy, and then 14 carries. So he didn't get all the rushing work, but he did get he played way more snaps and was quite valuable. So encouraging. Niners kind of destroy the Giants here. 34-24, closer than the score indicates. Mac Jones, 235 and 2. CMC, 28 carries, 160 yards, and a touchdown. Still only 3.8 yards per carry for him. Brian Robinson Jr., 553 and 1. So he has a somewhat relevant day for once. CMC, 567 and 1 in the air. Juwan Jennings, 441 and 1 in the air. Nothing for no one else. George Kittle, 4 for 32. He'll pop up for some big weeks, but yeah, it's disappointing. And Purdy's close to returning, it seems. Jackson Dart continues to be electric. 191 and 2 in the air, 856 and 1 on the ground. And then the story here is kind of with no Cam Scatterbo, Devin Singletary played way more than people expected. 8 for 43 for him on the ground, 5 for 18 for Tracy. And this was not the way it was last year. Last year it was like Tracy dusting Singletary. Slayton, 5 for 62 in the air, dropped the touchdown. Wandale, 9 for 46. Theo Johnson, 327 and 1. Gunnar Olszewski, 121, 24 and 1. Yeah, I mean, even Ray McCloud caught a ball here, 1 for 5. Usage-wise, continues to be Jennings, Bourne, and Demarcus Robinson as your top 3 wideouts in that order. And then Kittle, 23 routes, 4 targets. Again, when you're beating up on teams, Kittle's not going to have great games. And Brian Robinson only played 9 snaps, but on those 9 snaps, he got 5 carries. He ran 2 routes. He got no targets. So possibly they just play Brian Robinson some more and some blowouts. We'll see. CMC, though, having an absolute electric year. Not efficient as a runner, but when you catch a bunch of balls, who cares? For the Giants, Wandale Robinson, Ray McCloud, and Darius Slayton. So I had no idea Ray McCloud played this much, but I mean, big time bailout for our Ray McCloud bags if you have some in best ball. He had 1 target, but he ran 36 routes. Now, I will say it's a little confusing how you even run an offense with Wandale and Ray. My guess is it's Slayton on the outside, Wandale on the outside, and Ray in the slot. But regardless, okay, good sign for Ray, who I think is still a practice squad guy that they pulled up. Theo Johnson, the only tight end there, making noise. I still think Bellinger's hurt. And then the Singletary-Tracy split, pretty even on snaps, pretty even on routes run. Singletary led Tracy in carries, and Tracy got a couple more targets. So bad news for Tracy's fantasy appeal. Looks like Pearsall and Ayuk both are close here. So things are going to change up for the 49ers again. Is that good for CMC? Is that bad for CMC? I could see both arguments. The good argument is that it opens up the field more. People can't key in on him as much. The bad argument is those players demand the football too. And so he might not lead, he's not going to lead the team in receiving as often. Okay, the Steelers defeat the Colts 27-20, and this game was not as close as the score sounded like. I think they got like an onside kick. Daniel Jones, 3 interceptions, comes crashing back down to earth. 342 and 1. Yeah, I mean, this makes the Colts feel like, the Dolphins, the Vikings, when like with Tua, with Sam Darnold, it's like, okay, they're intriguing, they're good, but come the playoffs, they have Daniel Jones, they have Tua, they have Sam Darnold. They don't have Superman playing quarterback. Anyways, fine enough day for Jones despite the 3 interceptions with 342 passings. Jonathan Taylor has his first bad game of the year, 14 for 45. Daniel Jones stole a rushing touchdown as well. Alec Pierce, 6 for 115, and Adonai Mitchell's traded out, so Alec Pierce, man, great pick. He was a guy I was intrigued by in best ball a couple years ago. Didn't have any last year. Got some more this year, and he's crushing. 6 for 115. Michael Pittman, 9 for 115. Josh Downs, 657 and 1. Tyler Warren, 5 for 26. So many mouths to feed here, you know. Jonathan Taylor, 2 for 12 in the air. For the Steelers, 203 yards and a touchdown for Rodgers. Jaylen Warren, 16 carries, 31 yards, 2 touchdowns. Only 1.9 yards per carry, but hey, 2 touchdowns. Calvin Austin is healthy. 5 for 56 for him. And then Darnell Washington, 4 for 43. Gainwell, 4 for 35. Pat Freiermuth, 327 and 1. Jonnu, 3 for 25. DK Metcalf, only 2 for 6. And Caleb Johnson caught a ball for 9 yards. I think Roman Wilson had like a terrible fumble too. But yeah, they're not going to pass them. When they're leading by, it was 17-7 at half, Steelers, and then they were up big, and Colts came clawing back a little bit. Okay, so it's Pierce, Pittman, and Downs running the routes. Downs getting a lot of work in a trailing game script, and even on the targets for all of them. So, and then Tyler Warren, far out targeted by the wideouts in this one. Will Alie-Cox playing as like a blocking tight end. JT playing pretty much all the work. And DJ Giddens continues to be just inactive for Goodson. So bad news for Goodson. Again, if JT got hurt, maybe we would see DJ Giddens be the lead running back. Sometimes teams do that. For the Steelers, Metcalf, Calvin Austin, those are your top 2 wideouts. Roman Wilson, you would think is going to be a little bit in the doghouse after that interception. And them playing 3 tight ends continues to be a thorn in the side. 41 snaps for Washington, 29 for Freiermuth, 25 for Jonnu, 16 routes for Washington, 20 for Freiermuth, 17 for Jonnu, 6 targets for Washington, 4 for Freiermuth, 4 for Jonnu. Why did they trade for Jonnu? I don't know. Jaylen Warren, 35 snaps, 15 routes, 16 carries. Gainwell actually played quite a bit, but only 3 carries. Did get 5 targets, though. So Warren is the runner of the football. Okay. Chargers beat the Titans barely, but at what cost? Losing Joe Alt for the year after he returned. 27-20 for the Chargers here. Herbert, 250 and 2. Also 957 and 1 on the ground. Kamani Vidal, 12 for 30. Jarrett Patterson, 9 for 44. Timeline continues to be puzzling for Omari and Hampton. Arande Gadsden leads the way, 5 for 68. Ladd McConkey, 4 for 56. QJ has a good game after a couple bad ones, 4 for 53 and 1. Keenan Allen, 2 for 41. Their fullback caught a touchdown. Scott Matlock, 1 for 12, 1 for 2 and 1. The Titans, 145 passing yards for Cam Ward. So what are you going to do with that? But Tony Pollard, 10 for 56. Tajay Spears, 7 for 26. Alec Ayamanor, 3 for 46. Tajay Spears, 3 for 36 in the air. Nothing for Chimere DK. So Ladd and QJ lead the way in routes run. 6 targets and 5 apiece. Trey Harris plays quite a bit, and he's playing more and more as like the blocking wide receiver for the Chargers, which will lead to production eventually. Keenan continues to play less due to Trey Harris. 21 routes and 14 compared to 32 and 33. Gadsden is also a full-time player. 33 routes and 5 targets. Tragic. I added him in a tight end premium league, and I needed like a defense or something. And then I cut him, and then I couldn't get him back. Tragic. Kamani Vidal continues to be the running back playing the most here, but Jarrett Patterson, 9 carries to 12, so he's playing at least. But yeah, Vidal's the one. I think I saw Haskins got banged up. For the Titans, 25 routes for Chimere DK, 24 for Van Jefferson, only 18 for Elikai Minor. Did he get banged up? I don't know. Calvin Ridley continues to not play. Chig and Gunnar Helm continue to kind of split this with more Chig. I mean, this team is like the worst offense in football. Probably worse than the Saints. Let me know, guys. Who's going to win the Titans-Saints game week 17? That's a very important game for who gets the first pick, probably. Anyways, Pollard and Spears, they're like very even in the workload. Saints and Rams. Rams beat the Saints 34-10. Over the summer, I tweeted out, don't let Matthew Stafford's back injury distract you from the fact that Stafford could have, 50 passing touchdowns. Chips in another 4 in this one. 0-0 tie. 281 and 4 for Stafford. Kyren Williams, 25, 114 and 1. Blake Corum, 13 for 58. He played a ton coming out of the half. Of course, I was watching the Bills-Chiefs game during this. Puka Nacua got 1 carry, hurt his shoulder on it. I believe it's not believed to be a big deal, but still not great. Puka, 795 and 1 in the air. Devontae Adams, 560 and 2 in the air. One of those came with Puka off the field. Tyler Higbee, 3 for 13 and 1. Davis Allen, the other tight end, 3 for 37. Terrence Ferguson, the other tight end, 2 for 54. For the Saints, Tyler Shuck in his first NFL game that he started, 176 passing yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception. Taysom Hill, that's right, Taysom Hill leads the way running the football, 4 for 30. Alvin Kamara, 6 for 14. I mean, as someone that did not draft too much Kamara last year and drafted a little bit more this year, it's like, man, hard to see it going this bad. Rashid Shaheed was getting targeted left and right, 5 for 68 towards the end of the game. Then gets traded, so we'll see what comes of that. Chris Olave, 3 for 57. Juwan, 331 and 1. And then Brandon Cooks, who was like falling into more work, and Devon Bailey are going to fall into more work. Usage-wise, Olave, Shaheed, and Cooks are your top 3. Bailey is your 4, who's now your 3. Juwan Johnson is probably going to get more work as well. But yeah, Shuck might be terrible. And the thing about Shuck is he's athletic and he's a runner. And so that's not great for passing. Alvin Kamara and Devin Neal. Devin Neal is playing quite a bit, which is a bummer as someone drafting Kendre. Of course, Kendre is hurt. For the Rams, they're kind of like the Bengals, not the most interesting team to look at. A little bit more interesting, though. 7 targets for Devontae, 7 for Puka. Jordan Whittington was the 3 with 2-2 on IR. And then Tyler Higbee and Terrence Ferguson and Colby Parkinson and Davis Allen. Somehow all of these tight ends are playing a ton. Maybe some of this is due to the blowout. I don't know. But yeah, crazy. 3 tight ends with more than 40 snaps and a third with 24 snaps. Allen and Parkinson not running too many routes, though. So just a bunch of fat tight ends getting targets left and right. And then Blake Corum and Kyren. Kyren outsnaps Corum 55-22. He out-routes them 18-7. None of them get a target. And he out-carries them 25-13. Yeah, he's on IR. I do think Puka plays. I believe they said that due to the blowout, they weren't playing him. Jags narrowly escape a loss against the Raiders, 30-29 in overtime, when the Raiders go for 2, which I like. I like the decision to go for 2, and the ball gets batted down. Trevor Lawrence, 220 and no touchdowns. Travis Etienne, 22 carries, 84 yards. Byshell Tootin, 929 and 1. Trevor Lawrence, 2 rushing touchdowns, 9 for 24. Parker Washington, 8 for 90, leads the way. Brian Thomas Jr., high ankle sprain, 3 for 55. or maybe low ankle sprain. Travis Etienne, 5 for 31 in the air. And Dyami Brown, who I think got concussed, 3 for 25. For the Raiders, the return of Brock Bowers was met with a boom, 284 and 4. Yeah, I said all along, it's just injury for him. Gene T, 13 for 42 on the ground. Brock Bowers, 12, 127 and 3. An insane game. Gene T, 547 and 1. Trey Tucker, 3 for 38. Michael Mayer, 3 for 26. Jacoby Myers, 4 for 23. Tyler Lockett getting targets. Okay, so for the Jags, what did we have? We had Washington, Thomas, and Dyami Brown as your top 3, and then Austin Trammell as your 4, who he goes to 0 with Jacoby, obviously. Hunter Long is the tight end there until Brenton Strange returns. Travis Etienne, LeQuint, and Tootin split. Travis Etienne's getting 22 carries to Tootin's 9. He's getting 5 targets to LeQuint and Tootin's 1. Etienne's running the most routes. LeQuint's running the second most. And Etienne's getting the most snaps. So LeQuint is like the third down running back. So Tootin is still the RB2 there to have. For the Raiders, Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers lead the way in routes run. Lockett runs 12 routes compared to 43 and 41. Michael Mayer and Bowers are the other tight ends. So, I mean, somehow the Raiders just did not play Jack Beck or Deontay Thornton in this one. Something I didn't realize. And going forward, by the way, they're going to play Michael Mayer a ton. So he's not a bad pickup in tight end premium leagues either, where they're going to run a ton of 12 personnel. And so, yeah, it's still not probably great for Jack Beck, despite them. They should play him, right? And then GT got all the work at running back. Okay. Game of the week. Bills beat up on the Chiefs and win 28-21. Honestly, like, this game did not feel as close as the score indicated. The Chiefs were in it late. But for a long time, like, pretty much everything just looked so easy for Buffalo and so hard for the Chiefs. Now, unfortunately, the Bills lost Michael Hugg. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but yeah, one of their D linemen who was suspended for PEDs and came back. He was playing awesome ball. Tore his Achilles is what it is. For the Bills, 273 and 1 for Josh Allen. 23 of 26 passes completed. Unreal. James Cook, 27 and 114 on the ground. Did have 2 rushing touchdowns taken by Josh Allen and 1 rushing touchdown taken by Ty Johnson. But what I will say there is Cook got rolled up on like the first drive of the game, came out of the game, got his ankle taped. And so him playing as much even after that is like, dude's a warrior, right? Because I was like, oh no, like he might not play. Played pretty much the whole game. Dalton Kincaid, those haters are quiet now. 6 for 101 and 1 for him. I still don't think he's fully healthy. Like, every time he catches the ball, he's unreal. He barely played, as we're going to see here. And he's your number 1 wide receiver on Buffalo. Like, people need to come to terms with that. Khalil Shakir is technically your number 1. 7 for 43 for him. I still think Gabe Davis might join this team. He's on the practice squad, so he might end up playing. And then it was a hodgepodge of guys getting some catches. James Cook, only 1 catch, but it was a big one. Chiefs, 250 passing yards for Mahomes. Kareem Hunt, 11 for 49 and 1 on the ground. Rashee Rice, 2-6 and 1 on the ground. Rashee Rice, 4 for 80 in the air. Hollywood Brown, 273 in the air. Travis Kelce, 4 for 66 in the air. Took a massive hit. And Xavier Worthy was pretty much erased. 3 for 23. Yeah, I mean, who was a worse fantasy pick, Keon or Worthy? Clearly Worthy because of how expensive he was, right? And if you just kind of went into the year and you matched up, the players on the team and you're like, well, why does the Bills maybe 2 go in the 9th? And why does the Chiefs maybe 2 go in the 4th, right? Now, I still think Worthy is has the JMO ability where he can pop up for a huge game. And yeah, the Bills drafted a first round corner who this was his second NFL game. He's their only fast corner. The Bills historically have had all these 4.7 40 guys, 4.8 40 guys. I mean, last year, man, they lost 3 corners in that playoff game against the Chiefs. They were playing Kaiir Elam. It's a different story when they have a healthy secondary. And really the Bills defense they had Mahomes' number. They hit him a lot. This was one of Mahomes' worst days ever playing football. 15 for 34 for him. My advice to you, Jonathan, I'm not in Survivor. I haven't looked at week 10, but I think a lot of people are probably going to be trying to go to the Panthers after last week. I don't think it's a bad shout, but as you get further in these tournaments, it is valuable to just get different from the crowd too, because it's the NFL. Maybe Taysom Hill just beats the Panthers, Maybe Bryce Young loses the game for them. Anyways, usage-wise, Worthy, Rice lead the way in routes here and targets. Hollywood, 19 routes, 4 targets, but his targets were big in the game. Juju still playing a little bit. Tyquan still playing a little bit. Travis Kelce, 37 routes for him, 5 targets. Again, he got actually walloped at the end of the half. And then Kareem Hunt led the way at running back. I was a little surprised the Chiefs didn't trade for Breece Hall. Just because, having an explosive running back seems to help. And Hunt is, dependable, man, but he's not explosive. But, okay. Rashard Smith barely played, and that makes sense in, such a big game to me. The Bills, again, so Kincaid has this awesome day. Only 23 snaps for him. 16 routes, though, 6 targets. So, despite him not... right, the Bills only had 30 passing attempts in the game, and Kincaid was on the field for half of them. Okay? Keon and Shakir lead the way. Tyler Shavers plays a little bit. Curtis Samuel playing a little bit. Elijah Moore playing a little bit. Dawson Knox and Jackson Hawes. These are your blocking tight ends playing a little bit. Kincaid runs the most routes on the team. I still think he's recovering from his injuries. And so I'm not against Miami. I'm debating. I'm do I sit him? Because maybe the Bills are just are they going to really be targeting him that much? Maybe they try to let him heal up. But we'll see. And then, yeah, Cook doesn't play quite as much in this one, but still played a ton. 27 of 34 carries. And we know in these big games, these are the games where Josh Allen tends to get the tush-push touchdowns. 5 for 66. And it was a huge game, right? This is a huge game for, the biggest cope ever are the Chiefs fans being oh, it's the regular season and the Chiefs don't try. Give me a break, right? They're currently not a playoff team, and these are the 2 best teams in the AFC still to me. And so this matters a lot for the 1 seed, right? Okay, moving to Sunday Night Football. The Seahawks absolutely destroy the Commanders. I turned this game off at a certain point. 38-14. This game was not, it was 31 to 7.5. Sam Darnold, 330-4. Ken Walker, 11 for 42. Zach Charbonnet, 8 for 25. JSN, 8 for 129. Cody White, who is their 3rd tight end, I think, 160-1. Torrey Horton, 4 for 48-2. But then they trade for Shaheed, so we'll see what that's about. And Cooper Kupp's hanging around. Elijah Arroyo, 2 for 29-1. AJ Barner got a tush-push touchdown to the chagrin of Ken Walker owners. Commanders, Jaden Daniels' elbow gets crazily bent in this one. But I believe he's going to play again soon. Anyways, Chris Rodriguez, 1265-1. Jaden Daniels, 1051-1 on the ground. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, 12 for 38. Zach Ertz, 4 for 46. Deebo Samuel, 5 for 41. Jalen Lane, 3 for 29. I mean, I said this in the offseason where it's like the Commanders were in such a good position. They hit on quarterback. They had infinite cap space. They had some draft picks. And they added like all these old players. They added Deebo, who's kind of old. They brought back Zach Ertz. Austin Eckler was like, it's like, what are we doing, guys? We didn't want to get anyone young. Deebo Samuel's the big splash play you make when you're knocking on the door of the Super Bowl last year. Crazy. Anyways, okay, Cody White's a wide receiver. News to me. Torrey Horton, White, and JSN, pretty even in snaps and routes. JSN, of course, target monster. And maybe it helps Rashid Shaheed there, but it also could hurt them just a tad bit where, if Rashid Shaheed's catching an 80-yard touchdown, JSN is not getting the ball on that play. AJ Barner outsnaps Arroyo still. And then the Walker Charbonnet split, 29 to 18 snaps, 12 to 9 routes, 2 to 1 targets, 11 to 8 carries. Walker is playing more, though, towards the goal line than he used to, so I think he's getting healthier. The Commanders, Luke McCaffrey broke his collarbone, so Treylon Burks is now on the team. And Chris Moore, Deebo, Jalen Lane lead the way in routes. Burks getting in there a little bit. Zach Ertz also, leading the way at tight end. And then the running back split, JSN, Rodriguez, and McNichols are all playing. Mainly Rodriguez and JCN, though, are getting the carries. Okay. And then we go to our last game, which was also terrible, especially because most of the country couldn't watch due to the ESPN and Disney debacle. By the way, it's not YouTube TV's fault. It's definitely Disney, unless they want to sponsor the channel. Then we can rework that. Joking. Anyways, Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals, 27-17. They also got back Walter Nolan, their D tackle they drafted. Played well. Played great, actually. Brissett's been named the starter for now, so we will see here. Anyways, 261 and 2 for Brissett. DeMercado, who, if you remember, got chewed out previously, 14 for 79 on the ground. We are going to get Trey Benson back here soon, though. Zonovan Knight, 9 for 27. Michael Carter did not play, despite being on the team. Brissett steals a rushing touchdown, too. Marvin Harrison, 7 for 96 and 1. Actually has a good game with someone that's not Kyler. Michael Wilson, 3 for 61. Trey McBride, 555 and 1. He's catching a bunch of touchdowns with anyone but Kyler playing quarterback. Cowboys, 250 and 1 for Dak. 15 for 83 for Javonte on the ground. 7 for 85 for Lamb in the air. George Pickens, 6 for 79 in the air. Jake Ferguson, 5 for 50 in the air. Okay. That's what we got for the recap. I'll be doing the best ball leaderboard show tomorrow. Real quick, we can just check in, get to any questions you guys got. Davis and I are moving on in the Eliminator comfortably, if you're curious. And good news for us is we have Rashid Shaheed on the team and JSN on the team. So we're running good in the sense that Rashid Shaheed is going to go to a week 8 bye now. And obviously that's in the past. Now, I went back and watched the stream where it's worth it, man. Pretty much I just made fun of the nerds being like, how can you draft Colton Loveland? The 10th overall pick can't ever be good in fantasy. But anyways, I went back and watched this stream that I did it with Davis. Now, tragically, one name I floated when we took Darnell Mooney is Emeka Egbuka. And of course, so first off, the team was drafted May 5th. We're going to talk about this more tomorrow. So if you watch tomorrow, I'm going to repeat myself somewhat. But we drafted the team May 5th. If you follow discourse online, some people are like, you can't draft the eliminator before August. You're donating. What do you mean you're going to draft without the training camp info? So I love that our team is drafted May 5th. And if we got Ibuka, of course, it would have been an even better super team. But hey, you know, best ball's a weird game. Maybe Dardo Mooney has a big game. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload that video as a recorded video on the channel. Maybe I'll talk over it, but just so you guys can see, like, okay, how did an eliminator come together that made week 10? Because now the sweat is real, folks. We're week 10 here. You know, there's only so many teams left. Guaranteed $500. Next week, 1,000. Right? So sweat is real. Let's go. Davis and me. Let's win the eliminator. Chop up a cool 200K. How sweet would that be? Someone asked about the BBMDB. I'll talk about that really quick. I'm tired. I woke up at like 5:30 today or something. Okay, what does this percent mean? It's the it's his estimated win percentages for the team or his estimated advance percentages to make the playoffs. Using Monte Carlo simulations. It's not going to be perfect. Number one, I don't think it accounts for like injuries as quick as we do. So, for example, like it might still be including Tucker Kraft, or it might still think Rashid Shaheed is a Saint. It also seems like some of these numbers are a little surprising to me, where it's like this team is 61 points up. If we look at it, it's healthy. And it's like, oh, it's a coin flip to make the playoffs. Right? So, or this team is 46 points up, and it says it's a 1% chance to make the playoffs. So, you know, don't tell me the math, as Han Solo said. Let's see. Okay, it's saying that because it's a single quarterback team. Chase Brown, James Cook, Harvey, Swift, and Dobbins, though, that's a good running back room. Okay, not great. It has Neighbors. Does have London, though. Not great. It has Reed. And so, yeah, it has a bad wide receiver room and also has Kraft. So, okay, it just thinks the injuries tank it. I wouldn't put it at 1%, but what do I know? Some other teams are pretty far back, and it thinks it has like a decent chance, like 15%, despite being 66 points back. Dude, Flacco, Bowers. That's crazy. All right, we'll spend 5 seconds to talk about Survivor. I'll warn you, I've not looked at the Week 10 matchups. We're doing this live. He says, is Panthers a good play for Survivor? Can you break down the game theory on potential strategies? I burned Bengals, Cardinals, Seattle, Denver, Vikings, Pitt, Bears, Colts, Chargers. Okay. So to me, Jonathan, as you get later in the year, there is some value in just moving on. Take it from someone who is knocked out. So I get that the Panthers play the Saints, but they're going to be what? 30% owned, 40% owned, 50% owned. So anytime that you see ownership get so high on a single team, it's worth it getting different. So, for example, I know you want to save the Bills, but there is some value in just being like, you know what? Let me just pick the Bills and move on. They're not going to lose to the Dolphins, blah, blah, blah. I also think we'll see how they already used. And honestly, if you look at this week, this is a week where you're not comfortable picking teams other than a couple spots, right? I also think the Bears are somewhat interesting. I get that their defense is not great, but like the Giants roster is pretty terrible outside of Dart. And so I think the Bears have some value if you want to get different than the field. Like I will remind you, Jonathan, the Giants lost to the Saints, So if everyone's going to be picking the Saints because they want to use the Panthers, getting the low on Bears makes sense. I also think the Ravens make some sense to me over the Vikings. But it's like it's going to be a week where people are probably either going to try to lock the win in with Bills Dolphins, or they're going to do the Panthers Saints game. And other than that, anytime there's going to be mega, was like people are not picking Eagles Packers. People are not picking Steelers Chargers. They're not picking Rams Niners. Okay, this is another game that Lions Commanders is also a very reasonable one. I doubt a lot of people are going to pick Jags Texans. If someone has Seattle left, they'll pick Seattle, but I doubt they do. They're not going to pick Pats Bucks. Browns Jets, go with God, but sure. Falcons Colts, if they have the Colts left, but I doubt they do. Maybe some teams choose the Broncos, but yeah, I don't know. Good luck, Jonathan and co. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we got for the recap today. It was a good trade deadline. I will be talking all things best ball tomorrow night. Like, subscribe, join the Discord. Link is below. Peace out.